Live at Titans training camp here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Parker Kelley back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. It is a Reaction Monday, brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Parker, what's going on? How was your weekend?
Jacob, how is it going? How are the views from week 2 as we enter week 2 of Titans training camp? The pads come on today. This is what we've been looking forward to for about a couple months now, it seems like.
Yes. The pads come on today. It's the calm before the storm right now. The fields are empty. We're getting ready for practice. Fans are going to be out here today. The pads come on. We are excited. Although it was funny. I was just scrolling through some of the quotes from Robert Saleh over the weekend, and he did say that the first couple days of pads are kind of a dud, that you expect there to be fireworks right off the bat, but these guys have a lot on their plate that they're working through. So we'll see what we get today. But yes, the pads come on. Practice going to start right around 10:15, and we will bring you updates as we can. Parker, you were out here Saturday, final day before the pads came on. Jake Lyman back out there as a full participant. What were your takeaways from the Titans' third full day of practice here during training camp 2026?
Well, the longest short of it was the offense really struggled. I did not witness a touchdown from the offense in the 7-on-7 portion or the team portion of it. It was a very much an up and down day for them. There were a couple of good things to look at, like Jake Lyman finally coming off of the PUP list. He was limited for the most part. He did get some action, but was rotating in and out at tackle during the team period. Austin Deculus came in for him originally to start, and then it was Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon. So it seems like that's going to be the rotation at swing tackle. I expect one of those to at least make the 53 when we get closer to that time. And the main takeaway was Alec Ayomanor. He had some great catches during 7-on-7 and team as well. Either going to be the 4 or 5. We're not sure how that's going to work yet, but man, physically, he was already really impressive from a physical standpoint last year. But I was telling Corey, it looks like he put on 10 to 15 pounds of just straight muscle this year. He looks good, and he had some really great catches. So hoping that carries over to this week when the pads are on.
Yeah, we're going to dive into Alec Ayomanor throughout the show here. He seems to be the big training camp standout through the first week. We'll see if he can continue that as the pads come on today. But you mentioned it. It's been the defense so far throughout training camp, and I think that's not unexpected. Talent-wise, I think the defense is just better, and you're going to see them challenge this offense, especially as the pads come on today, Parker. I mean, we've talked about the strength of this team. The defensive line, the depth, the talent. You've got your best player, Big Jeff, in the middle. Maybe your second or third best player, John Franklin Myers, right next to him. The interior of this offensive line, the big question mark. So that's going to be something to pay attention to today as the pads come on. Can this offensive line hold up against a very talented defensive front for the Titans?
That is going to be the story to watch. Absolutely. I do expect, and this really is no secret because we kind of been hammering this, but I do expect especially that interior offensive line to really struggle. I do remember, I mean, even back in my playing days, some of the worst headaches I got were from those first couple of days we were wearing helmets, wearing pads, just because you really haven't worn them all summer, so it takes your body time to get used to it. And usually these drills and these scrimmages and 7-on-7 and all the team stuff is built for the defense to win. Typically, the defense wins more than the offense. That's not just with the Titans, but with really any team. So I do expect that to be the case here.
I will say something we haven't seen, and I heard Joe and Paul talking about this too, is we have not seen one-on-ones yet between the DBs and the wide receivers. He says that's going to come as the pads come on. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Parker, Robert Saleh said tomorrow is the first time we're going to see their version of one-on-ones between the wide receivers and the DBs.
I believe that is right. I'm excited because I will be out there tomorrow, and I really am looking forward to seeing how Carnell Tate as a rookie is able to match up against, the Alontae Taylors, the Cordell Flotts. I'm excited to see how Wandale looks because he's primarily played in the slot, which will be his role this year. Lots of option routes. I'm just excited to see him if he's put in a situation where he has to run more of a full route tree. Calvin Ridley, he spoke to the media on Saturday as well and said that He feels as good as he's ever been. He feels as fast as he's ever been. He did have the stomach bug in which he lost, I believe the number was 15 pounds. He hasn't gained all of that back yet, but he said, I think at least 10 pounds he's put back on. So what does that look like? I'm really excited to find out.
Yeah, and Chipotle has taken a couple of Titans wide receivers over the years. It got A.J. Brown a while ago. It got Calvin Ridley. So tough there, but it was good to see him back out on the field. Quick tangent off of that, Parker. Did you see the Steve Smith comments about Calvin Ridley?
See,
that he's just not a good route runner?
I heard that he was upset at Calvin Ridley for some reason. I did not see the comments, but I did hear that he was upset or at least mad at him. Or can you fill me in?
I think the exact quote, I want to find the exact quote so I don't mess it up, but I want to say he said he's a speed merchant and he's not a very good route runner. But I don't want to misquote him. I'm trying to find the quote here from Steve Smith. And based on what I've heard, Parker, is Calvin Ridley was viewed as one of the best route runners in the league in his prime. Here's the quote from Steve Smith. My point is he's a speed merchant, but he's not a route technician. He's not a great route runner. It showed. I had a lot of film. I had a great opportunity to watch him when he became the guy in Jacksonville. When Christian Kirk went down and Zay Jones went down a little bit, they started moving Calvin Ridley around, and they started to realize he can't run every route on the route tree. I was a little caught off guard by that just because I remember A.J. Brown when he went on Bussing with the Boys and he was asked who are his favorite wide receivers. He put Calvin Ridley in that conversation because of how he runs routes. We heard from the young wide receivers last year that they learned so much from watching Calvin Ridley go through his routes in practice. So I don't know. Again, Steve Smith, he's played at the highest level for a very long time. Very successful NFL wide receiver. But it is a little bit strange when all I've heard about Calvin Ridley is how he excels as a route runner. Maybe there are certain routes he runs really well and he can't run others, but I thought that was a little bit of a strange comment from Steve Smith.
It is interesting because I feel like Steve Smith is one of the best when it comes to evaluating the wide receiver position. But I've always thought when watching Calvin Ridley that is one of his strengths that you don't necessarily see with some of the other receivers is his ability to run the full route tree. And that was something that Alec Aomanor and Jim Dike, when they came in last year as rookies,
right,
something that they were paying close attention to. They were watching Calvin. Now, Calvin Ridley may not have, I have no idea if he has that same burst, he says he does, of running the route tree like he could when he was with the Falcons or maybe when he was with the Jaguars. We'll have to see. But that's something that the younger guys paid close attention to. That's not adding up.
Yeah, I was confused by that quote because he's the first person that I've heard say Calvin Ridley is not a very polished route runner. Maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. I don't know, but I think I'll take the word of the masses that we've heard about Calvin Ridley rather than just one guy. Quickly, but we're going to get more into wide receivers coming up in the next segment. But Parker, I did want to get your thoughts on Cam Ward on Saturday. I did see some notes from TD, said that he looked like he was starting to get into a rhythm a little bit. I know the defense won the day once again on Saturday, but what did you see from Cam Ward in day 3 of practice, final day before the pads came on?
Definitely getting the ball out of his hands very quick. And that's something that is really you're going to notice the longer you watch. In this Brian Daboll offense, lots of screens, option routes, short routes, getting the ball at slants, outs, hitches, things like that. So you're going to see Cam Ward get the ball out quick. Lots of seams, something that Cam Ward loved to throw at Miami. He's going to get the ball out of his hands quick. Still waiting on him to hit the deep pass. There was a play on Saturday where he scrambled, he escaped the pocket, rolled out left. And I believe, I want to get this right, I believe it was Wan'Dale Robinson who came and he threw across the field and just over his head. So you're still waiting on that big play where Cam Ward is able to complete a ball 40, 50 yards down the field. Hasn't happened yet, doesn't mean that it won't. But those are just some of the things I noticed from Saturday's practice specifically.
Yeah, and it does seem like Brian Dable is slowly working his way up with Cam Ward, getting more complicated each practice. So we'll see today as the pads come on what things look like for Cam Ward. But the offense has definitely been the loser the last two practices after day one was kind of 50-50 here and there. So excited pads come on today. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ryan in Florida may be misunderstanding. He says the real question is, can Stephen A. Smith run all the routes? Different Steve Smith. Steve Smith Sr., the wide receiver for the Panthers and Ravens, most notably. I'd like to see Stephen A. Smith try and run the route tree. I think that would be hilarious.
Heard that was a segment
Steve
on
Smith.
First Take today.
Really? Yeah. Stephen A. Smith, not the one who called out Calvin Ridley. It was Steve Smith, former NFL wide receiver. Is he a Hall of Famer?
I believe so. Is he not?
Is he a Hall of Fame? Yeah, I want to say he is. Let's see.
If he's not, I'm going to be very surprised. I feel like I should know this.
I don't believe he is. Not yet. He put out less than a year ago. He is happy he didn't make the Hall of Fame amid the drama. So we'll see. I think at some point he's going to get in there. But borderline Hall of Fame wide receiver was the one calling him out, not Stephen A. Smith on First Take. Rick on the text line says, D-May said Ridley is a very good route runner. The problem with Ridley is he's dropping easy passes. I'm hoping he fixed that this year. It's in his head. And I agree with that. Like, I don't think Ridley's route running has ever been the issue, at least in the 2 years here. I think it's just been the inconsistency with the drops. Staying on the field, first of all, is a huge issue for him. So, again, everybody else has said that Calvin Ridley is a very polished, talented route runner. Not that Steve Smith doesn't know it. Like, he knows what he's talking about, but I think this one might be one where he's a little bit mistaken. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. 4312 wanting my thoughts on the Tarek Skubal trade. We will get to that later this hour because I do have thoughts on the Tigers trading Tarek Skubal on Saturday night. But coming up next, you mentioned it, Parker. Alec Iamaner has been the standout of camp so far, at least on the offensive side. Where do we rank him in this wide receiver room? Is he starting to move his way up the depth chart? And we're talking about Calvin Ridley. Corey Curtis has suggested that the younger guys taking a step forward could make him expendable. We'll talk about that throughout this first hour as well. 615-737-1025. We are live today at Vanderbilt Health Football Center for Titans training camp. The pads come on today. Lots to get through throughout the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up. 1025 the game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Parker, you weren't kidding. This is a great way to start the day. Your 9:15 ones, when we've been out here at practice, have been killer so far. You got this, and then you played some Dreams and Nightmares for TD on Thursday.
Let's just put it this way. I'm a man on a mission because I did listen to a little bit of Friday's show. And Nick Frazier, I got to give him his props. He did a good job, but I'm a man on a mission. There can only be one best DJ at this station. So consider it it's going to be a historical day, might I add.
The gauntlet has been thrown down, and Parker trying to prove himself today. I was in Clarksville with Nick Frazier yesterday. We called the Cats game together. Arena football is just crazy. Parker, have you watched any of these games for the Cats in the AF1?
I've watched a little bit here and there.
So the final score of yesterday's game was 92-76. It is the highest scoring game in arena football history. And my favorite play, I won't give you all the details. The Cats, by the way, did win. They're playing in the AF1 Crown Championship Saturday at F&M Bank Arena. So if you want to go out and watch it, you can. My favorite moment from yesterday was one of Michigan's wide receivers makes a leaping catch falling into the stands, and like an 8-year-old kid rips the ball away from him, and they called it incomplete. I mean, it was something that you cannot get anywhere else. The kid just played defensive back against the wide receiver, and it counted. It was incomplete.
That is crazy, but also too, it helps when the field is basically cut in half. I couldn't imagine playing. I imagine everything is so sped up, just given the field is a lot shorter. The sidelines are a lot closer together. You're indoors. It's just got to be a completely different feel.
Yeah, the quarterback for Michigan yesterday was Malik Henry of Last Chance U.
Yeah.
So he threw for 11 touchdowns and 470 yards or something, and they lost. So. But it was a fun game.
Be a crazy feeling knowing that you put up those stats and still lost the game.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun out there. Saturday is the championship game against Albany. Quickly before we get back to the Titans, Parker, you asked me during the break about the Odyssey. I went and saw it in the IMAX 70 on Friday. I'm sure lots of people out there listening have been to that Regal Opry Mills and have seen that IMAX screen. That was my first time seeing it. I could not comprehend how big that screen was. I mean, and I was sitting in the fourth row. It felt like you were there. Like it felt like I was in the Odyssey. I was that close. It was really cool. Great movie, by the way. And I'm glad I splurged and went and saw it in the 70 IMAX. It's an experience that I felt like I needed to have.
Great movie. I saw a list that there are 2 movie theaters in the United States, both in Tennessee, that are in the top 10 biggest in the country. And Opry Mills happens to be one of them. But Christopher Nolan, I mean, he's got to be in the conversation for one of the greatest directors of all time. Every time he makes a movie, it either lives up to the hype, and there's always going to be hype with him, or it exceeds the hype. And I felt like Odyssey was definitely one of those movies. I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I'd totally see it again. I
agree. That is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. It was really well done. So I just wanted to quickly mention that because I sat down and that screen, it's just like I tried to take a picture for my wife and I did the 0.5 on my phone and I still couldn't fit the whole screen in there. Like it was insane. But anyway, back to Titans training camp. We are live here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Practice going to get going in a little under an hour as the pads come on today. And Parker, we were talking about Alec Iamaner. He was the standout from Saturday's practice on offense, at least. He stood out on Thursday with a great catch over Cordell Flott. I am probably one of the main people to blame for this, too, of people not giving Alec Iamaner his flowers heading into the season. I wasn't sure that he was going to be able to take a leap. I was a little worried by the inconsistency last year. You know, you saw he would make some of those great catches, the touchdown from Cam against the Rams, the play before the touchdown against the Rams, too, where he pinned it against his helmet. He had some great plays, but it wasn't consistent enough for Alec Iamaner. Is he starting to put it all together? I know it's early. Pads haven't even come on yet, and we have to see if he can continue this throughout training camp. But it is good to see that the young guys, DK and Alec, you need them to take another step forward. It seems like Iamaner has done that so far in training camp.
The biggest thing for him is catching the football. And something that Calvin Ridley struggled with, something that Chigakonkwo 2 years ago really struggled with. But Alec Ayomanor, it seems like, from talking to various people, that he was more committed than he's ever been in the offseason. So I imagine that getting on the jugs machines every day was something that he made a point. Clearly, he emphasized taking his diet up to a whole other level, right? Getting in lots of lean protein, and you could tell by the way he looks. So I do expect him to have a big training camp, and he's already started with a bang. And seeing where he will kind of stack up in the pecking order, don't think that he'll be a starter. I think the top three are pretty given, but how much playing time he'll get as a sub, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I think most of us, and correct me if I'm wrong in your thoughts, Parker, I think most of us expected DK to be the one to challenge Calvin Ridley for snaps early. DK last year, once they started using him correctly and not just on screen passes behind the line of scrimmage, you started to see what he can do down the field with the ball in his hands. I think a lot of us expected DK to be that second-year guy who takes the leap. And still possible, and of course he's going to bring a lot in the return game as well, but I think Alec Ayomanor I think I undervalued him heading into this year. He's big, he's fast. I just didn't know if the consistency was going to be there. Again, super early. We got to see what happens when the pads come on. But I think the depth of this receiver room is already showing. It's a room that they invested a lot in this offseason, spending the 4th overall pick on Carnell Tate, giving Wan'Dale Robinson the big money. That's the top-end talent. You need depth, and it's good to see that Alec Ayomanor stepping up. And again, I don't know what's going to happen over the next 4 or 5 weeks before we get to playing actual football, but I do think that Alec Ayomanor has put himself in that conversation to challenge for reps early on in the season with Calvin Ridley, with Chim Dike at that third wide receiver spot, the outside spot opposite Carnell Tate.
I wasn't sold one way or the other on who I thought should be wide receiver 4 heading into this year, whether it's Dike, whether it's Ayomanor, because they're both different, but they were both really solid in their rookie year. But Ayomanor, at least for the first part of training camp, OTAs, minicamp, what he's been able to do, and assuming that he can keep this up once the pads come on, I feel like he's proven that you can't keep a guy like that off the field. And they're obviously, even if Chim Dike is not wide receiver 4, if he happens to be wide receiver 5, there are ways that you can use both of them. TD talks about the transcontinental crosser with Chim Dike. That's absolutely a way that you can use him. With Ayomanor, he's more of a physical jump ball, catching the football at its highest point. There are going to be ways that you can utilize both of those guys in this offense, and I have confidence that Brian Daboll, given how smart of an offensive mind he is, will figure out how to do so, and they'll both play a lot.
Yeah, and I think you're right in saying that even if Alec Ayomanor isn't your starting wide receiver at the X or the Z, he's still going to get opportunities in the red zone on third downs. We saw that the contested catches, he was able to go up and make some plays last year. With Chim Dike, there's ways to use him because of how dynamic he is with the ball in his hands. And like you said, using his speed on those big, long crossing routes. I do think that even if Calvin Ridley is technically your starting wide receiver, Brian Daboll, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's not a lot of redundancy in this wide receiver room. You've got different styles, whether it's Carnell Tate, Wan'Dale Robinson, Calvin Ridley, Alec Ayomanor, Chim Dike. All of them do different things well, and it allows Brian Daboll to put guys in positions to succeed and put guys in positions to make plays because he can use their skill sets in different ways.
If Calvin Ridley, too, he was brought back this year, there was a lot of talk this offseason about whether he'd get brought back or not. I think it's pretty safe to assume at this point in time that Ridley may not be on the roster next year. And if Ayomanor has if he's able to improve off of what he did last year, because he had a strong start, maybe didn't finish the season the way that he'd want to, if you can build off that and have a slightly better year than what you had last year, Elliott can easily be a starter on this team next year as a wide receiver 3, paired with Carnell Tate and Wan'Dale Robinson. And I see that working pretty beautifully.
Well, and I heard Corey this morning with Joe and Paul talking about, Calvin Ridley, probably, like you said, probably not going to be on this team next year. I didn't think he was going to be on this team this year until he took the big pay cut. So the expectation is he's not part of your long-term plans. He's already, 32, 33, somewhere in
Yes.
there. So you want to see what these young guys are, because if Alec Iamaner or Chim Dike or both can be starting caliber receivers, you don't really have to address that position all that much next year. You've got your young number one in Carnell Tate. You've got your slot guy in Wandale Robinson. Then you would have one or two guys who can line up opposite them. Yeah, you might have to add some depth, but you'd feel good about the wide receiver position. Calvin Ridley maybe has to be that stand-in, that Band-Aid for a little bit until those guys are ready to take the next step. But he could become expendable sooner rather than later. And we can talk about that coming up next. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Matthew in Nashville asks, did you guys make predictions on who the training camp darlings would be? And was Alec one of them? I can't remember. I know we did do this, Parker. We came up with our training camp darlings, maybe with Connor, and I forget who we all picked. I might have to go back and check that out. But
I'm forgetting too.
Rick on the text line did mention Xavier Restrepo. He says, keep an eye on Restrepo today. He's about to break some ankles and pads. I believe he was mentioned when we talked about training camp darlings. I think Alec Iamaner was flying under the radar. Again, I think if you ask most people, most fans, most people in the media, who is going to challenge Calvin Ridley more for reps as wide receiver 3? Chim Dike or Alec Iamaner? I think most people would have picked Chim. So it's good to see Alec Iamaner showing out early on in training camp. Again, long way to go. Pads come on today, joint practice next week, 8 days away in Santa Clara. So long way to go to prove that he can sustain this production. But it is good to see Alec Iamaner off to a good start. 615-737-1025. Again, we are live at Titans training camp today. Robert Saleh going to step to the podium coming up in about 15 minutes. Practice coming up after the top of the hour. Coverage of Titans training camp is presented by Tennessee Brewworks, Parman Energy, and the Music City kickoff game, Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Titans training camp continuing today. We're out here today, tomorrow, Thursday. Pads are on this week. Titans preparing for a joint practice and a preseason game next week against the San Francisco 49ers. We are getting closer and closer. Did want to issue a quick correction. Thanks to TD for letting me know, texting me. Robert Saleh going to speak after practice today. So not going to speak at 9:45. He will speak after practice, which, Parker, I'm sure you agree with me, I think is better, especially in your first padded practice. I'd love to hear from the head coach after because, I mean, what are you really going to ask him about right now that you don't already know from Saturday? I want to hear what he has to say after he sees his team perform today for the first time in pads.
A nice change of pace because you don't know how practice is going to play out. And when he's speaking before, it's basically, what's happened from previous practices. Now you get a recap, you get an instant reaction from Robert Saleh wanting to know his thoughts, which honestly, I love that idea too.
Yes, and so we will hear from Robert Saleh later on today after practice, and we'll let you know any updates from him. I believe some players going to speak. I heard Paul say both the first-round rookies going to speak today, Keldrick Falk, Carnell Tate, Alante Taylor. So going to be plenty of quotes later today after the pads go on at practice. We're talking about the wide receivers. Alec Iamander off to a good start in training camp. Wanted to get your thoughts, Parker, on Chim Dike so far. We know what Chim Dike can be in the return game, and all-pro last year as a rookie. He's going to be a dynamic player in special teams. We saw flashes last year as a receiver. What have you seen so far from him during the team periods on offense and what he's grown into in his second year as a pro?
Really, I'm not trying to say this in a condescending way. I just haven't noticed him as much as some of the other guys. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be such a big focus. Obviously, Carnell Tate being the 4th overall pick. Alec Iamander has kind of stole a little bit of the spotlight from some of these other guys. Calvin Ridley hasn't been out there as much because of the stomach bug. Now that he's back out there, that takes away from some of Chim Dike's reps. So, I'm not saying that in a bad way. I just haven't noticed him as much as some of the other guys, but I'm sure that we're going to be seeing him a lot more once we get to these joint practices, which you mentioned next week in San Francisco. Very excited about that. And once we get to, the blue and white scrimmage as well on Friday, we're going to be seeing a lot more of him.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I can't remember from being out here on Thursday, of course, and then from the other two practices, reading through notes, I just haven't seen Chim Dike mentioned all that much. Again, it's so early in camp. We'll see what he's able to do as the pads come on today. But it does beg the question, and I was not with Corey Curtis on this when he said it a couple of weeks ago on our show about, could you trade Calvin Ridley at the end of training camp? Maybe he becomes expendable. You want to see the young guys out there. And I still don't think I would be fully on board with that plan. He is a veteran in that room that is very young. Wan'Dale Robinson is really the only veteran in that room, and he's still 25 years old. So he's not a real experienced guy, despite playing 4 years in the league. So Calvin Ridley is your veteran. He's the elder statesman in that wide receiver room, and he brings more value than what he does on the field. And I still think he probably is your third most talented wide receiver out there, the guy who can play and help you out the most to start the season. I still think it's a trade deadline issue, but I think you do hope that Alec Iamander and Chim Dike continue to grow to the point that maybe you do get to the trade deadline and you look at Calvin Ridley and say, we don't need you. Maybe another team that needs one extra piece. The Chiefs need wide receiver help. Maybe the Bills need wide receiver help. Say, hey, we can give you Calvin Ridley, get something of some value back. Not a lot, but something of value. And then you can start to see the young guys throughout the rest of the season and find out whether you have something to build around for the future. But I'm starting to understand Corey Curtis's point, even if I'm not fully on board with shipping off Calvin Ridley before the season even starts.
I disagree 100% with it. He talked to me about it on Saturday. That's the first time I heard him mention it. I don't think you should trade him right now. If it's a mid-season trade, okay, I'm a little bit more to listening to that than if I would be right now. I was actually thinking about it over the weekend. I was thinking about what Corey, his proposal. If you take Calvin Ridley out of that room, It's Carnell Tate, a rookie. It's Alec Manor in his second year. It's Chimdike in his second year, and then Wan'Dale Robinson, who has some experience, has played in the league for, I think, this is his 5th year. So he is a veteran, and he's been in the stable offense before. But outside of that, there's really no experience. Or at least there's not a lot of it. Calvin Ridley brings something to the table, even if he's not a spring chicken. Chimdike, and I talk about this all the time, Chimdike and Alec Manor were constantly asking Calvin Ridley questions, trying to get acclimated to the league. I believe Carnell Tate is going to do the same thing. So if nothing else, that is a huge asset to the other receivers that you're hoping are going to turn into franchise pieces for you moving forward.
Right, and I think that's the big thing is, yes, on the field, Calvin Ridley has left a lot to be desired given the contract that he got 2 years ago. 4 years, $92 million. Yes, he had 1,000 yards 2 years ago, despite Will Levis and Mason Rudolph being his quarterbacks. But last year, he was expected to be the guy for Cam Ward. And even when he was healthy, he just wasn't good enough. The Denver game, I think, is burned in every Titans fan's mind of the opportunities that he had to make plays for his young quarterback, and he didn't come through. So, yes, Calvin Ridley has been a disappointment given the money that you gave him. But you're right. He brings more to this team, more to that wide receiver room than just what he's able to do on the field. TD always raves about how he practices. He sets the example for the young guys. I think there is value to having him in that room. Again, not saying Corey's thought is completely wrong. I understand what he's saying. You want to see those young guys. You want to see Alec Manor and Chimdike to know if you have something to build around. But I think that might be more of a midseason conversation. If you're 3-6 at the trade deadline and you want to see more from those young guys, and there's another team that feels like Calvin Ridley can be like the Chiefs when they traded for DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans, like a similar trade to that. I could see that happening. I don't see it happening at the end of training camp like Corey has suggested. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Steven from Hendersonville texted in and said, would it be better for his overall development if Tate started as the 3 and Ridley is the 1, so Tate isn't drinking water out of a fire hose? When we talk about wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, it's less about role than it is about volume, I guess would be the best way to put it. Like, making the coaching staff isn't saying Carnell Tate is the wide receiver 1. They're going to say he's the Z. And if he becomes the wide receiver 1, it's because he's getting open and Cam Ward is throwing him the football. So I understand what you're saying of you don't want Carnell Tate to come in and immediately have to be the focal point of this offense. I think he possibly could do that. But a wide receiver 1 versus a wide receiver 3 is less about what you're asked to do, more about what you actually do when you're out there on the field. Is that a right way to explain it, Parker?
Absolutely, because there's always going to be a lot of conversation and buzz, but ultimately it matters what you end up doing on the field. So I do agree with you there.
Right. Like Brian Dable is not calling the play and saying, Carnell Tate, you're the wide receiver 1 on this play. He's saying you're the Z, or Calvin Ridley, you're the X, or Wan'Dale Robinson, you're the slot, like you're the F. Like that's how it works. But I understand what you're saying of Carnell Tate. I think you'd like to have some of the more experienced guys be capable targets for Cam Ward early so it all doesn't fall on the shoulders of a rookie. We'll see. Carnell Tate has looked good throughout training camp so far. He's going to get every opportunity to be a large part of this offense early on in his rookie year. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at 1025 The Game for live shows and exclusive content. We are live at Titans training camp. Lots of Titans talk to come throughout the show. But coming up next, I do have to react to the big news in baseball over the weekend. Tarek Skubal traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers. There's been a lot of uproar about this. People saying that the lockout is guaranteed now. They might be right, but I've got my thoughts on this trade and who's to blame for the Dodgers likely winning their 3rd straight World Series. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up. 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you, live from Titans training camp. Pads coming on today. Now, I did tease that we were going to talk about the Tarek Skubal trade because that's been the buzz of the weekend. The Dodgers doing what the Dodgers do, adding another juggernaut to their roster in pursuit of a three-peat, the first three-peat in National League history. But we drop everything when this caller calls in. For the first time in, I'm going to say 6 weeks at least, we have Trey on the line. Trey, good morning. How are you?
Trey!
Good morning, my people. How are y'all today?
We are great, Trey. We've missed you. What have you been up to?
Trey, I was worried about you, man. You hadn't called in for a while. I was getting concerned.
Hey, I was just letting it all marinate. Hey, where's Will Levis at?
Will Levis was at the podium on Saturday. He was talking about being one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the league.
Oh, I'm sure he did. And he's still on the team, right?
He is still on the team, yes.
So what was y'all telling me about 4 or 5 months ago? He was going to be traded before training camp.
Yep, you are right. We did say that, and he is still around. I don't know if he'll be around when training camp ends, though.
Hey, so I deserve my spot.
You do, Trey. We'll give you your flowers.
Well, yes, we'll give you your flowers, Trey.
But I just wanted to say that I appreciate y'all, man, a lot. I just been doing some meditation, and I want to get back to listening to y'all about the team and everything. And it's everything's positive, and I know everything's gonna be positive with the team, hopefully. And the Kevin Ridley thing that y'all was talking about, this is my opinion. I'm at the point to where he needs to show me and the other Titans fans that he actually want to be on this team. He actually wants to perform out there, earn his paycheck. I'm sure he probably does, but I know he's an old goat. And they need him in the wide receiver room and everything. But 1,000 yards over 17 games, y'all, that's not fulfilling any promises or dreams. He needs to get out there and do a better job and be the chief of these different wide receivers, especially Cornell Tate, because Cornell Tate is going to need him to be able to, help him adjust in different reads and routes and stuff like that. So I think he'll be all right, but I was on the fence. But if he does well this year and earn his paycheck, I think he'll be all right. And I hope Will Levis take what Coach Sala gives him and Coach Daybell, what they give him as far as learning techniques and stuff, because I really, truly believe Will Levis is a good quarterback, y'all. I really, really do. I think he did some knucklehead things, but I think he'll come out, better. And I believe Will Levis will probably win 4 or 5 games out there this year. That's just me. Y'all know I'm right all the time. I was right about everything. But I love y'all, and y'all have a good day, and thank y'all for taking my call. I'll give y'all a call back tomorrow.
Thank you for calling, Trey. We hope to hear from you much more often as the season gets closer. Trey is a national treasure.
I'm telling you, Jake, my concern over Trey, because we just hadn't heard from him. I honestly think it's been longer than 6 weeks, but the amount of relief and peace in my mind that I feel right now, given that that Trey just called in, I feel like a weight has just been lifted off of my shoulders.
I agree. We were worried. We needed proof of life from Trey because with his adventures to South America, you just never know. Apparently, he's just been in a meditative state for the past 6 weeks. And
Trey's been in a flow state when it comes to predicting what's going to happen with the Titans because, man, was he right about Will Levis and we were wrong. Now we got egg all over the face.
Right. We had to eat crow. That's honestly – since we started the show, which actually, Parker, I don't know if you know, tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of Next Man Up.
It is. We should have a celebration.
We will. We'll celebrate tomorrow. It's the 1-year anniversary. But I would say my worst take that I stood on the table for was that Will Levis was going to get traded during the draft. Like I stood on the table for that for like weeks, and I was total eat crow, egg in the face. He still might get traded or cut by the end of training camp, but we'll give Trey his flowers. Trey, he found nirvana over the past 6 weeks. He is ready to roll for training camp. He says he's going to call back tomorrow. So, Parker, I guess we have to expect we're going to get Trey a whole lot more from now on.
I hope so. I hope now that football season is here and Trey is always wanting to talk about the Titans, hopefully we will get the daily calls from him to help the show out a little bit.
Yeah, Pegram's Finest on the text line says, man, hearing Trey's analysis gets me fired up for football. I mean, it is true. No one breaks it down like Trey. He doesn't. I was so relieved to hear his voice. We love Trey. Thank you for calling. I'm going to wait on the Tarek Skubal stuff. I want a full segment for that. So we'll stick with Titans here. He did bring up Will Levis, and we can get into this a little bit more later on in this show. I think that he hasn't done anything so far, and correct me again if I'm wrong here, Parker. You've seen, I believe, one more practice than I have. I haven't seen anything from Will Levis so far to make me think that he has taken a huge step forward. He talked in his press conference back on Saturday about he feels like mentally the last year was really important for him. Again, it's training camp. There are no pads on, but from what I saw on Thursday, from the notes I've seen, it doesn't seem like Will Levis has taken some massive step forward over the past year.
He hasn't. It's been more of the same, right? He might throw the best throw in all of practice, and then he just has one where what in the world? And that just continues to happen. I will say, though, for Levis, I believe it was Nick Suss who asked the question, and that's when the clip that went viral, I'm one of the best 32 quarterbacks in this league.
Yep.
I absolutely believe I have a future as a starter. You have to have the confidence, even if it never happens, even if he does not get a chance, the first step in that is being confident. So if nothing else, at least Will Levis has the confidence.
Yeah, 100%. That clip went viral, and I have no problem with it. We'll dive more into this topic in the final hour of the show too, but you're right. If you're going to be a quarterback in the NFL, if you're going to be a top 32 quarterback in the NFL, you've got to have that confidence in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to. So I had no problem with him saying that, even if it's not true. I think that's the mindset that you have to have if you're going to work your way back to being a starting quarterback in this league. So, Trey calling in, taking victory laps on Will Levis. Go ahead. We've got no problem with it. But I will say I would be surprised if he's on this team come week one.
I would be too, and I don't know. It would just make sense in my mind. He'll be a free agent next year. You're not re-signing him. It would make sense to trade him and see how much value you can get. I don't know if the Titans are going to keep three quarterbacks. If they're going to let Hooker go, they're probably going to let Hooker go. He hasn't really gotten any reps outside of when Mitch Trubisky missed that practice. So I have no idea. But in my mind, it makes sense to trade Levis while you can and get as much value as you can, even if it's a 6th or 7th round pick.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. Again, we are live at Titans training camp today. Fans are out here. There's a nice little atmosphere going. You're seeing the players come out with the pads on for the first time. Excited to see the first padded practice of training camp here for the Titans. We've got much more Titans talk throughout the show. But I do want to talk about the Tarek Skubal trade. It has been the buzz of the weekend. The Dodgers are ruining baseball again. We'll get into it. As a Tigers fan, I feel like I heard Joe Rexroad's thoughts on it. I've got some perspective on it here. I knew he was going to get traded. I was trying to speak a Brewers trade into existence, but it didn't work out. We'll get into it coming up next to start up hour number 2. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you on this Monday morning live from Titans training camp. Next man up, 1-2-5 the game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5. The Game, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Titans training camp, Vanderbilt Health Football Center. First day in pads for the Titans as they gear up for the new season. Parker back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Going to get into more Titan stuff here as they gear up, getting ready for joint practices, preseason next week. I want to get into the MLB trade deadline. Tarek Skubal being traded on Saturday. But first, let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin in Hopkinsville has called in. Dustin, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I chimed in about when y'all was talking about Trey. Did he call or text?
He called. We got proof of life from Trey.
Heck yeah, good to hear he's alive. I'm ready for those Cam Ward hater hot takes. Has he switched again, or?
Yeah, it goes back and forth, Dustin. Like he was harping on us for thinking Will Levis was going to get traded, but we didn't hear any thoughts on Cam Ward. He seemed to have been coming around on Cam Ward at the end of last season. We'll have to see.
Well, look, I'm super biased. We all know that I love Will Levis. I think he's got what it takes. He's just got to not make the boneheaded mistakes. But you have to call a spade a spade. Cam Ward is our number one quarterback, and the best thing for Will Levis is to get off this team and someone else have him come in and try to be their number one quarterback. And if he fails, he fails. He succeeds. But it ain't here.
Right,
now,
and that's the point I've been trying to make is I think it makes more sense for both parties for him not to be here anymore. But you've also got to find a deal that makes sense. So
I have a theory and putting things together pretty quickly. When Will Levis did that, it is the perfect timing. We got the preseason coming up. Pads are fixing to go on at practice. And videos are going to get out of his big bomb throw here and there because they're going to let him have some time. And I'm sure that Saleh, Dable, Titans organization said, look, you ain't our guy here, but we want to see you succeed. We're going to give you the best tools to succeed. And we're going to set this thing up where you talk. We're going to try to get the most out of you. We're going to try to get you a good situation, get multiple teams trying to come after you, whether it's 2 or 5. And I think both the Titans and Levis, they are playing a game right now. And that was not just Levis. That was the Titans talking to through Levis.
Right. And I do think that preseason, you're not going to see a ton of Cam Ward, series or 2 in each game. Mitch Trubisky, I don't think you even really need to see much of him in the preseason. Like, again, maybe a quarter. Everything else should be going to Will Levis. Hendon Hooker's barely getting any reps in team periods during practices. Will Levis should be playing 6 quarters of football during the preseason.
Yeah. Hey, Levis, if you're listening, buddy, I know Dable and all of us told you, if you think you're going to make a boneheaded play, tuck and run, take the sack or throw it away, buddy. Live to die. Yeah. What he's telling Ward, you're going to live off a third down. Get to third down, man, or go to fourth down. Just don't turn the ball over. Don't make boneheaded mistakes, dude. Live to fight another day, and eventually that thing's going to click because you got all the tools. You are actually more talented with your feet and hands probably than Cam Ward, but he's got it all upstairs for you don't. All right, y'all have a good one.
Thanks for the call, Dustin. I can personally guarantee Will Levis is not listening, but it was a good message there from Dustin in Hopkinsville.
He's a practice to get ready for.
I'm watching him right now, so yes, he is not listening. But I do want to get to Saturday's news. I've been teasing this because as a Tigers fan, I feel like I have a unique perspective on Tarek Skubal. I know Joe Rexroad, a Tigers fan as well, also gave his thoughts. So the return isn't necessarily all that different from what I expected. I think I expected a hair more. Like I would have expected, River Ryan that the Tigers got back is 28 years old and coming off Tommy John. I would have expected a better arm than that. Zaire Hope is about the type of prospect I think you would expect, a top 25 prospect in baseball, and then you get the lottery ticket. I think his name's Brady Smith, who is, as a matter of fact, is 0-10 as a minor league baseball pitcher, but that's beside the point. That was the return for Tarek Skubal on Saturday night. And, of course, he goes to the big bad Los Angeles Dodgers, back-to-back World Series champions. And, Parker, I'm sure you have thoughts on this, too, of immediately everybody goes to, well, that guarantees the lockout, and this is what's wrong with baseball, and the Dodgers are unfair and all this kind of stuff. I saw that all over Twitter the last couple days. Am I right, Parker? Like, that's kind of what everybody's reaction was.
Yes, but I do believe the lockout was going to happen with or without this Tarek Skubal trade to the Dodgers. It just amplifies it, I believe.
I don't think this trade has anything to do with it. There are a lot of reasons that baseball may not be played in 2027, and at the very least, games are going to be missed. And the Dodgers are a big reason for it. The $1.1 billion in deferred money, the Kyle Tucker contract, the Shohei Ohtani contract, going out and just buying all these players that no one else can go get. 100%. The Dodgers, I think, are the biggest reason that there is not going to be, at least on-time baseball in 2027. There's going to be a lockout. But this is not another domino in that sequence. Every team had the opportunity to make this trade. And maybe I would say something differently if the Dodgers, I guess if they made some mega deal that absolutely no one else could have matched. They have 4 top 25 prospects. If they spent all 4 of them, then yeah, you could say the Dodgers were gaming the system and somehow they ended up with more talent than others. Whatever. This isn't that mega haul trade, King's ransom, that no one else could have matched. It's 1 top 25 prospect, a 28-year-old pitcher who's coming off of Tommy John surgery, and a lottery ticket 21-year-old arm in single A who's not having all that much success. The Brewers could have beaten that deal easily. The Cubs could have beaten that deal. They didn't. They did not pony up and say, guess what? If we want to win a World Series this year, we've got to be better than the Los Angeles Dodgers. That is what every other team across baseball, all 29 other clubs, is tasked with. Be better than the Los Angeles Dodgers, or at least give yourself a chance in a 7-game series against the Dodgers. The Brewers could have done that. You give up. I'm not saying Jesus Mate, the number 1 prospect in baseball. You wouldn't have had to give him up to beat that deal. You had, I want to say his name is Luis Pena, is their second best prospect. He's another top 20 guy. You've got young arms. The Brewers have the number 1 farm system in baseball. They are the best team in baseball by record with the Dodgers. They are the 2 best teams. And if those 2 teams end up meeting in a 7-game series in the NLCS, the team that has Tarek Skubal pitching 2 or 3 games has an advantage. If the Brewers could have pitched Jacob Misiorowski and Tarek Skubal 4 or 5 out of those 7 games, that's how you beat a team like the Dodgers. They could have done it. They didn't do it. And I don't blame the Dodgers for this one. This is an open market. Every team was given the opportunity to go make a deal for Tarek Skubal, and the other teams hoarded their prospects and clutched their pearls and said, we're not going to do it. Guess what? When the Dodgers go win their 3rd, there's no one to blame but you, when this was the opportunity that you had in front of you to pair up Jacob Misiorowski and Tarek Skubal as your game 1. Skubal would start game 1, Misiorowski game 2 against the Los Angeles Dodgers in the NLCS. You could have done that. You didn't. And guess what? When you get beaten 5 games by the Dodgers because they're running out Glasnow, Snell, Yamamoto, and Skubal, sorry. You should have made the move. And so, yes, the Dodgers are the main reason that we're going to have a lockout in baseball coming up in 2027, because they have taken advantage of the system because of their TV deal where they get to keep an extra $66 million every single year. They do have inherent advantages that need to be closed, and there needs to be a salary cap in baseball. The Dodgers are the biggest reason for that. But this is not something to get mad at the Dodgers about. This is a move that you get mad at the other teams out there for not doing it themselves and stopping the Dodgers from doing it. There's my rant. I do not blame the Dodgers for doing this. And guess what? They deserve to go win a 3rd straight title now, because other teams could have made this move and they decided to let the Dodgers do it again, and they're going to lose in October because of it.
I agree with every word that you just said. A lot of people like to go after the Dodgers because they are an easy target. They're en route to winning their 3rd straight World Series, and it's the same reason that a lot of people hated those Alabama teams when Nick Saban had the dynasty. The team that wins all the time, eventually it starts to get old, and people don't like to see the same teams winning. So the Dodgers are an easy target, but at the same time, every team in baseball would have wanted Tarek Skubal to pitch for them. But the Dodgers were willing to spend to get him. So you can't blame the Dodgers for that. But they are one of the main reasons that we're going to get this lockout in 2027, which I do believe is going to happen because it seems like everybody wants a salary cap outside of the players. And honestly, why would the players want a salary cap? Why would they want to cap how much they get paid or how much a team is willing to spend on them? It's kind of the same thing with this NIL conversation that we're having in college athletics, not just football. Why would a player want to cap how much they can make? From a player's perspective, you wouldn't want to do that. So I don't blame the Dodgers for wanting to go get Tarek Skubal. I had a friend tell me on Saturday night that, he was hearing, the Cubs, they have a good chance of getting Tarek Skubal. I would have liked to believe that as a Cubs fan, but at the same time, I didn't have a feeling that was going to happen, and I was right. I was telling you, it was the most anticlimactic news I saw over the weekend that the Dodgers are getting Tarek Skubal because, of course, why not? But, yeah, they're going to win a third straight World Series, and you can't blame them for wanting to make the move. You just can't.
Right, and you mentioned Nick Saban. There are inherent inequalities in college football. There is no level playing field, and the same could be said for baseball. There's no salary cap, so the big market teams can go spend, while the small market teams, not saying the Tigers are necessarily small market, they're not the A's or the Pirates, but they're not willing to give $600 million to Tarek Skubal over 10 years. The Dodgers would be, and so Scott Boras said he's going to take him to free agency. There's no extension talks that are going to happen, so the Tigers had to trade him. But you can't blame the Dodgers because no one else wanted to pony up their prospects to go make this move. I saw this 2 years ago when the Tigers were outside the playoff picture looking in. Tarek Skubal had 2 years of control left, and the conversation was, do you trade him because you could get an insane haul for Tarek Skubal with 2 years of control left? And the Orioles were the team everyone was talking about. And I remember seeing Orioles fans, we don't want to trade Kobe Mayo. We don't want to trade Samuel Basayo. And it's like, well, your team's good enough right now that if you add a front-end arm, you can go win the World Series. And the team followed what their fans were thinking and didn't want to give up the prospect haul. Look where the Orioles are now. A lot of those prospects haven't panned out. The Brewers could have easily done that this year. The Cubs could have done it as well and gone out and made that move. They didn't do it. So the Dodgers, yes, they're to blame for a lot of the reason we're talking about salary cap and all this stuff, because they have taken advantage of the system with $1.1 billion in deferred money and going out and spending all this money in free agency. 100%. They are the reason for it. But this is not something to get mad at the Dodgers about. This is something to get mad at the rest of the MLB for letting the Dodgers do it and basically giving them the path wide open to a third straight World Series. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get to your thoughts on this coming up next. Titans getting ready for their first padded practice of training camp. We'll keep you updated on everything going on out here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. We are live at Titans training camp. Our Titans training camp coverage is presented by Tennessee Brewers, Parman Energy, the Music City Kickoff Game, Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. Practice about to get underway right here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. We'll give you updates. A good crowd on hand today. Second practice open to the fans. Tomorrow's open to the fans as well. It is the first padded practice of camp, so excited to see what the team looks like as we start up these padded practices this week to gear up for the preseason. We were talking about baseball. Big news over the weekend. The Tigers trading Tarek Skubal to the Los Angeles Dodgers for a package of 3 prospects. The headliners, Zaire Hope, the 25th best prospect in baseball. 2636 Viking Matt on the text line says the Dodgers gross revenue for 2025 was $1 billion. God forbid they actually use it on their players. And it's true. It's like the Dodgers are taking advantage of the system 100%. And does that mean you have to change the system to get a more even playing field? Probably. And that's a conversation for after this season ends. But you can't blame the Dodgers for this move. That I think Tarek Skubal's owed like $9 million this year. It's not a lot of money for anybody out there. I know it is a lot of money, but for these teams, taking on $9 million for the rest of the season, not a big deal. It was about the prospect packages, and these teams, these smaller market teams have been trained that they have to build their team through the prospects. And yes, that is going to be the way you build your roster. But when you're a team like the Brewers, and you've got your team in the position where they are one of the best teams in baseball, and you can add the missing piece that might get you over to the top to win your first World Series, and in that process, stop your main opponent from getting that same player, and you don't do it, or you at least don't put a more competitive offer out there, I don't understand it. I don't blame the Dodgers for making this move. I blame every other team for not making it.
No, I do too. Just because, I mean, there's not a salary cap right now, so you can go and spend. So I just don't get it, because these teams are the ones saying that we need a salary cap. I just don't understand. Why would you not try to stand in their way if you can prevent a third straight World Series? If you had the opportunity to do so as a competitor, why would you not want to go make this move? Why would you not do everything you can to bring him into your bullpen, bring Tarek Skubal into your bullpen to prevent the Dodgers from going and doing 3 straight?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things where you can complain all you want about the Dodgers taking advantage of the system, but when the system allows you to hurt their chances and help yours and you don't do it, you got no one to blame but yourself. I have seen that there's like conspiracy theories out there that the owners are colluding and trying to make the Dodgers win a 3rd straight because it's going to get the fans on their side during the lockout. I don't know. Like, I don't think that's like a completely maybe the owner collusion. I don't necessarily believe, but
that
I do think the owners do want the fans on their side, because typically in these the CBA disputes, the fans are usually on the player's side. These are the players that we watch. They deserve to earn their worth. We're on the player's side. This is the first one that I can remember where I think the fans are already on the owner's side. I don't know if you needed this move to make that happen. I don't think as much as I don't really love Chris Ilitch as the Tigers owner, or, Scott Harris has his moments as the president of baseball operations, I don't think that they were colluding with the Dodgers to only make this move because they want the CBA to get done and they want a salary cap. I'm not going to believe that, but it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense that other teams weren't willing to pony up. Again, what was not some massive prospect haul. The Dodgers could have done that if they wanted to. Like, if the bidding got high enough, the Dodgers, they did have more prospect capital to go out and make this move than other teams, but they didn't even have to use it. They gave up their 3rd best outfield prospect, a 28-year-old right-hander coming off of Tommy John, and a 21-year-old in single A. And you're telling me other teams with a chance to go win a World Series couldn't do better than that? Give me a break. I mean, it's just and part of this is I wanted the Tigers to get a bigger return, and it frustrates me that I'm like, really? No other teams were willing to give up that to stop the Dodgers from getting the best pitcher in baseball, really? And so it frustrates me, but again, there is some inherent bias of me, Tigers, to get a return, but it's just you complain all you want about the Dodgers being unfair and getting all the talent, but when you have a chance to stop them from getting somebody and you don't do it, it's it's frustrating. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Tim in Nashville says small market teams might have an excuse. What's the Cubs' excuse? Parker, thoughts?
I don't have an excuse for him. I don't. I wish they would have. That's why this added to my frustration, because of course he's just going to go to the Dodgers. It's just like Thanos adding another infinity stone to his gauntlet. I don't know, man. I don't have an excuse for him. It's just really frustrating because people were trying to get my hopes up about the Cubs going and getting a guy like that, and they didn't do it. Just a bunch of rat poison.
Yeah, it's disappointing to see this because, and to be fair, baseball is one of those sports where just having the best team doesn't guarantee you a championship. Last year, the Dodgers were 1 out away from losing to the Blue Jays in the World Series. They were 1 out away from losing in the – no, actually, they rolled through the NLCS, if I'm remembering correctly. But they were 1 out away from losing in the World Series to the Blue Jays. It can happen. Somebody can beat them. But this is one of those things. It moves the needle. We talk about it does or it doesn't move the needle. Tarek Skubal is a needle mover for everybody out there. And again, you had a chance to not only stop them from getting him, but you get to add him to your team, and you didn't even give a competitive offer with what was kind of a meh trade from the Dodgers. Anyway, Adam in Portland texts in, how long do you guys think the lockout's going to be? I don't know if they can afford a full season. Like, I don't know if they can miss the full season, but I can't imagine two sides being further apart on these issues. And the salary cap obviously being the big issue. Bryce Harper berating Rob Manfred, walking into their clubhouse last year saying, if you're in here to talk about a salary cap, then you can get the bleep out. Like, these sides are so far apart on this that you're going to miss baseball games. I can almost guarantee opening day is going to be delayed. You would hope that the desperation, once owners start missing out on money, once players start missing out on money, that they come to a compromise. I'm going to say, if I had to guess, I doubt we see baseball next year until at least June. That would be my guess, is that it'd be like a early to mid-June opening day next year. I think it's going to be about 2 months that we miss out on some baseball.
Let me know if you think I'm wrong. I do believe that a majority of the fans are on the side of the salary cap, but I view it as the MLBPA. I think they have the strongest players association in all of professional sport. They have a really good backbone led by guys like Bryce Harper. You look at the NFLPA and the NBA Players Association, and they have the backbone of a chocolate eclair. But the MLBPA is really, really strong, so I don't see them backing down from this. I just think it's inevitable that this lockout is coming in 2027. I don't know if it's the whole season or just we'll delay things, but I hate that for baseball as a whole, because the MLB has a lot of momentum right now, and baseball is in a really good spot. And I feel like a lot of the casual baseball fans like myself are now watching more and more often and keeping up with things. And if you put that on pause and there's no baseball to start 2027, with the short attention spans nowadays, you're going to lose a lot of that viewership, and you're going to lose a lot of that fan interest, which will set baseball back to where it was a few years ago.
100%. I mean, right now, baseball's in a great spot with the rule changes. You got shorter games. I think people are loving the challenge system this year. And you've got stars. Shohei, Aaron Judge, Paul Skeens, Jacob Mizorowski. You've got stars that people know about and are fun to watch. And I agree. If you miss a full season of baseball, you just never know what fans are going to come back. The diehards will come back, but I think you are getting the casual baseball fan back into baseball again. Missing a whole year of a season, I think, would really hurt baseball for the long term. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Quick update here for the Braves fans. Jeff Passan just tweeting out right now, the Atlanta Braves are acquiring left-handed reliever Brent Suter from the Los Angeles Angels for infielder Nacho Alvarez Jr. So not a huge trade there, but the Braves have made their presence known on deadline day. 615-737-1025. We got lots to get into for the second half of the show here. Practice getting underway here at Titans training camp. We'll talk plenty of Titans. Also, the big news over the weekend, the court decision in Denver, the federal court deciding that all 2022 athletes in college sports are going to get an extra year of eligibility. We'll talk about that throughout the show as well. Back into the Titans after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Parker, your thoughts on this, the new college football anthem for ESPN this year? High Noon, Shabuzi.
Yeah, it's also featuring Gunna, which I haven't heard from Gunna in a while. It's not bad. I listened to the whole thing over the weekend. Not bad. It's not my favorite, but I don't mind it.
They're using Shabuzi a lot because he's in the Monday Night Football intro too, right? Or Thursday Night Football.
Yeah.
He's on the Prime one. Yeah. So he's all over the place. I don't mind it. I like it. Meet at high noon. I hope that the best games aren't going to be at high noon. That's more of a Fox thing, but I think it's a solid one. Maybe not one of the. I liked the fan-made ones a couple years ago where they did Revival by Zach Bryan. I thought that would have been great. I don't know if they've actually used that for anything.
No,
but I thought that was always a good one.
That was definitely one of the fan-made ones. It was good. I enjoyed that one. I've enjoyed the last couple they did. I actually enjoyed, this is a throwback for me, Imagine Dragons. I like the Imagine Dragons ones that they did back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, Imagine Dragons, they get a lot of hate, similar to like Joe's hate of Creed and Nickelback. And I'm not saying I'm an Imagine Dragons fan, but when I was younger, there were a couple of songs that were decent. Demons, I thought, was a decent
playlist,
song.
Right? Radioactive was on there. There was one more that I really liked.
Yeah.
What was the name of the song that was the college football anthem? It had something to do with chains, right?
I have no idea.
I'm blanking on it.
They had Thunder. That's a song. I'm going through my Imagine Dragons Rolodex here, and I don't have much. I think I just named the 3 songs that I know: Radioactive, Thunder, and Demons. But I think they got a lot of hate. Okay, yeah.
And that's
a good
it
one
for me too.
That's a good one.
I can name 4 songs.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. 3555 texting in. We'll wrap up our baseball conversation with this. He says, other MLB teams cannot afford to trade away prospects as easily as the Dodgers can. When your team payroll is 1.74 Kyle Tuckers, you don't have the same tolerance for risk. Don't blame the Dodgers, but also don't blame the other teams. They just can't operate the same way the Dodgers can, even from trading away prospects. I get that for a lot of teams, but for the Brewers, I'm pointing the finger at the Brewers here, and I hate it because I like the Brewers. The Sounds are in town. They're their AAA affiliate, but you are in the conversation with the Dodgers right now. Talent-wise, record-wise, you're right there. And that was something that can sway the balance between those two teams for a possible NLCS matchup one way or the other. It's not like the Tigers got the entire Dodgers farm system. They gave up their 4th best prospect to do it. The Brewers could have beaten that deal. That's the only point I'm making, and I don't think it would have set back their franchise decades. Anyway, let's get back to the Titans here. Practice is underway. I do want to mention Cody Barton is going to join us coming up either at the end of our show or the start of the Chase and Big Joe show. It depends on when practice ends. But Cody Barton is going to join us at some point live from Titans training camp. Also, Wan'Dale Robinson, one-on-one with Derek Mason at 420 on DVD. So excited for that as well. A little wide receiver on wide receiver action there with Derek Mason and Wan'Dale Robinson. They will chat on DVD coming up at 420. So Cody Barton coming up after practice. I will talk with him most likely at the beginning of the Chase and Big Joe show. And then Wan'Dale Robinson will be speaking with Derek Mason, Willie Donick, Connor Newt. That's coming up at 420 on DVD. Titans' first padded practice about to get underway. It's underway right now. They're working on some special team stuff right now. Excited to see what this offensive line looks like. Maybe excited isn't the right word. Nervous to see what the offensive line looks like, Parker, because when you don't have the pads on, I think things get evened up a little bit. And even with that, we saw that the defensive line was clearly winning those battles. Now that it's full go, everybody's in pads. I do think that this could be a bloodbath today with the defensive line being so talented, so deep, and the offensive line having as many question marks as it does.
I do expect it to be a bloodbath, and maybe not just today, but the first couple of days of practice. And really, once we get to the joint stuff, the joint practice with the 49ers, Seahawks, and Bears, that's more of a true test of where this offensive line is at. The conversations we have had over the last few weeks have not been encouraging. I do not see another way in which it does not look like a disaster, at least in the training camp portion leading up to the preseason, and then once we get to the regular season.
Yeah, and we've banged the table on this of you you could have added more, and you still can add more. There's still talented players out there on the offensive line. They're giving it a shot here with what they've got, with Schlotman at center, Volson or Slater at right guard, and just absolutely nothing beyond your two tackles in Dan Moore and J.C. Latham. They're going with it. Today might be a wake-up call, and I know it's only day one. It might not be able to tell you everything, but Jermaine Johnson was asked was that on Thursday? He was asked about, like, hey, what is the offense in for once the pads come on? And he said, you're going to find out. Like, we're going to get after them. I think that's going to be the case today. We'll have to see as the team period starts. But, like, man, I just don't see this offensive line being even average this year. And it's a scary thought. I know that it's hard to address every single hole in one offseason, even with the resources, right? Like, Dave Ziegler, I go back to the quote that he had after free agency and the draft, and he talked about how in free agency, there's so much involved. There's money involved. There are other teams. These guys have families. They're deciding where they want to go, and sometimes you strike out. And if I had to guess, I think that's what happened with the Titans at center, is they went after a bunch of guys, and they struck out a little bit on the veteran options that were out there. There weren't many, and if you don't get the top 2 or 3 guys at the top of the market, you were stuck with a guy like Schlotman. So I think that's what happened. But I don't think that excuses what they've done at tackle. That's the one I keep coming back to. Center and right guard, you might be able to make it look serviceable if J.C. Latham takes a step forward, Peter Skoronski being as good as he has been. Like, you might be able to make center and right guard look serviceable. But one injury for Moore or Latham just puts you into a spiral. And that's what worries me the most, is one injury and you're looking at Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon or Austin Deculus starting. And maybe at that point, you would go out and get a Jack Conklin or a Taylor Decker still out there from the Lions. Maybe you would be forced to go do that. But those guys are out there now. Who knows 2-3 weeks down the road if they get clutched up by some other team and you're left with nothing, no options if there's an injury. That's what scares me the most. And I think this might be a wake-up call type of practice for the offensive line with the pads fully on today.
Here's the scariest part about all of this is the line wasn't good last year, but it got even worse, at least as it stands on paper right now. And just watching, I was watching Cordell Volson on Saturday, and I know the pads weren't on, but I saw him get turned around. And that was not encouraging to see. But then to make matters worse, Austin Deculus comes in, and I'm legitimately just watching this go down, and I'm like, there's no way, this guy doesn't deserve to be on a 53 anywhere. Like, it was not pretty. So I imagine that is going to get amplified today when the pads are on, and as we progress throughout training camp. It's just not been encouraging.
And I do think J.C. Latham is the key cog in that offensive line, because him taking a step forward, I think, makes that whole unit a lot better. The quote that he had on Saturday, Parker, that stunned me was that he said he couldn't do any lower body work in the weight room or anything like that last year with that hip injury. And that starts to explain a lot more why he struggled, especially early on in his second season, dealing with the injury and not being able to do any work on his lower half. That's got to be tough for an offensive lineman.
Yeah, because a lot of what you do, it comes from your lower half, right? Being explosive, being agile, moving, side to side. Oftentimes you're in a phone booth with a lot of these defensive, these edge rushers. So not being able to do anything with the lower half, even your hip mobility, is such a big deal. Not great. And J.C. Latham, just from seeing him up close at the podium on Saturday, doesn't look as slim as he was last year, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I don't know if he was, trying to put on more weight this year or what, but he looked a lot bigger. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's reasons for optimism with J.C. Latham, given everything that he's gone through in his first 2 years, starting at left tackle, which was not his natural position coming out of Alabama, then being flipped back over to right tackle, and the injury in training camp and the injuries early last season. Like, it does make sense that he hasn't been the top 7 pick that you drafted him to be. But as we've said pretty much all offseason, at some point it's put up or shut up time. No matter what you've gone through, this team needs to know if they've got their right tackle of the future, and this is the year for him to prove it. So first day in pads, he was out there in full on Saturday for the final day without pads. I'm interested to see what J.C. Latham looks like, especially against a much improved defensive front this year. You're not facing Arden Key was fine, and I guess you had like Draymond Jones was in there last year. Fine pass rushers, but I think it's upgraded now. You're going to see Jermaine Johnson. You're going to see a first-round pick in Keldrick Falk. You might see John Franklin Myers on the edge. He's going to be tested. J.C. Latham, outside of Cam Ward, the most important person for this Titans team taking a step forward this season.
And it may be unfair to him. I'd be willing to say that it is. He played left tackle as a rookie. Last year, year two, cut short due to injuries, didn't get as many repetitions as you would want at your natural position of right tackle. Year three, the Titans have to have an answer. Are you going to be the franchise right tackle moving forward? He was highly regarded at Alabama, but there's just no way of knowing. And I know the pads haven't been on, but there's still very valuable reps that you can get, and J.C. Latham wasn't out there for that. At the very least, he did get a practice, an acclimation period before throwing on the pads, but there's still a lot to garner. So if anything, I hope he was getting the mental reps that he needed. I hope that he's been in the film room, getting with, Carmen Brasillo, talking about how he could be better in year three. I hope he was able to get in the weight room some. So we'll just have to see.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts. Titans starting their first padded practice out here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. We'll give you updates as we can. Again, stick around throughout the day. Couple of big interviews here on 102.5 The Game. We'll have Cody Barton probably early in the Chase and Big Joe show after practice wraps up. I'll talk to him live here from Titans training camp. And at 4:20 on DVD, Wan'Dale Robinson going to speak with Derek Mason, Willie Donick, Connor Newt. Excited to hear the back and forth between Derek Mason, one of, if not the best wide receiver in franchise history, talking with Wan'Dale Robinson, the new addition for the Titans. 615-737-1025. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. Titans' first padded practice of training camp is underway. Give you updates as they come in. Titans gearing up. 1 week from tomorrow, we'll be in Santa Clara for a joint practice with the 49ers, and a week from Thursday, preseason game number 1. So, again, this schedule, you wait all season, Parker, for training camp to start. And you feel like there's going to be this big ramp-up period before you get to playing actual games. No, preseason, the Hall of Fame game is on Thursday. Titans play their first preseason game a week later. It's going to be go time sooner rather than later.
Yeah, no, it has to be. And it's exciting because games are actually around the corner. There are opportunities for guys who may have been afterthoughts or, not highly regarded during the draft process that now get an opportunity to prove themselves. And it's just in a very, very exciting time of year and lots of dreams, lots of goals to be chased, exciting times.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. If you want to chime in, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 3555 asks, do you think it's fair for us as fans to think the Titans have no intention of being competitive this season? Second most cap space in the league, and to your point, an injury away from the worst O-line in the NFL again. The Titans are trying to be competitive this year, as evidenced by the money they did spend in the offseason. They went out and spent over $100 million in total money on 2 cornerbacks. They went out and signed John Franklin Myers. They moved up in the draft to get some guys they feel like can be key pieces of their present and their future in the draft. They're trying to be competitive this year. And competitive is a very subjective word. What does that mean? Does that mean just not being one of the worst teams in the league? Does that mean contending for a playoff spot? I would say probably more the former. I think this is a team that is expecting to take a step forward. But you're right. There's not really much of an excuse to be made for a team that had the most cap space in the league heading into free agency, still has $60 million in cap space, and has left the offensive line in a state that you look at it and say, even healthy, it's not good, and you're one injury away from just an unmitigated disaster up front. And so I do question that part of Mike Borgonzi's plan this offseason. I think he did a really good job in a lot of other aspects, building the wide receiver room, loading up on the defensive line for Robert Saleh, who we know his defense is built around having a deep defensive line. That's all really important, and I think they did a really nice job there. The one spot that was kind of ignored was the offensive line, and we're going to have to see if this unit is going to be able to stand up. And again, with how much work has gone in to the defensive front, you're going to find out pretty quickly over these next few padded practices if this offensive line is going to be able to hold up against some of the top groups in the league. I wouldn't say the Titans have the best defensive line in the league, but if you're looking for a strength on this roster, that's it. And if you can't hold up against this defensive line, you wonder what's going to happen once they get to actual games. So, again, I don't know if you can say the Titans have no intention on being competitive, but if there's one giant wart on the plan this offseason, it's certainly the way they addressed or the lack of solution that was found on the offensive line.
And it's a big wart, right? To the texter's point, there's no professionally run organization that's willingly trying to not be competitive. And from the Titans standpoint, they can't afford that even if they wanted to, right? Mike Borgonzi, given the history of this Titans organization over the last 4 years, right? It's been hiring and firing. So Mike Borgonzi can't afford to throw in the towel, and Robert Saleh definitely can't afford to throw in the towel. He's on his second stint as a head coach in the NFL, and there are only 32 spots for head coaches, and it's very rarefied air to get a second crack to be a head coach. Robert Saleh cannot afford to mess this up, or he'll never get another opportunity to be a head coach ever again. It's just, to your point, Jake, I don't understand, with all that cap space that you had, why you didn't feel the need to address the offensive line more. Cordell Volson coming over from Cincinnati. Cincinnati hasn't been known to have good offensive lines during Joe Burrow's time as the quarterback there. And Austin Slotman was not your starter in New York last year. So I just don't understand, even if there weren't a lot of options out there, there were still guys that you could have brought in and signed. And there are still more players that you can go out and sign now, Kevin Zeitler being one of them that I've talked about.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point of you can't have years where you're not trying to compete in the NFL. The patience level is so low in this league where one bad year, that might be all it takes for you to lose your starting job as a quarterback on the offensive line, to lose your job as a head coach, lose your job as a general manager. All it takes is one bad season for the feelings to go sour. So I do think the Titans are doing everything they can to get this team competitive. And there are a lot of position groups that I look at and say, man, you have really solidified that spot. The plan in the offseason was strong at a lot of different spots. The offensive line is just the one where you look at it and you say, what was the plan there? Because they didn't do anything meaningful up front to try and make this a better group in front of Cam Ward. We can't really judge it until we see it on the field, right? We can't judge it until we see whether this group can work. But on paper, as we've harped on for the last couple of months, this isn't a good group. And again, what worries me the most is that you're one tweaked ankle away from having a disaster on the right side of the line if Latham goes down, or if Moore goes down, having, Brandon Deculus protecting Cam Ward's blind side. Like, you just can't have it.
There was that one season too. I'm forgetting it. Was it 23 when Rand Carthon had the famous statement of, we got everything we needed from starter to the furthest backup? There's just no way that you can address all of the needs this team has, being 3-14 the last 2 years. There's just no way you can do that. And I understand that. But offensive line, you can't run, you can't throw if the offensive line cannot run block and pass protect. You just can't do it. So it doesn't matter the new shiny pieces that you brought in, drafting Carnell Tate, bringing in Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec Aomanor having a great training camp so far. None of that matters if Cam Moore doesn't have time to get the ball out of his hands.
Right. And I think you look at the wide receiver room and you say Cam Ward is going to have a much better group of weapons to throw the football to this year, with Tate and Robinson and the development of Aomanor and DK as second-year players. But you're right. If you can't get the ball out, how much does that help you? And you do hope that maybe Austin Schlottman is this diamond in the rough that Carmen Brasillo and Brian Dable were watching develop behind the scenes in New York last year. And maybe Cordell Volson was a bright spot on an otherwise below average offensive line in Cincinnati when he played. But as Jeremy in Clarksville says, I hear a lot of hope talk about Latham. You can't build a franchise on hope. I think that's all you got on the offensive line, is just hoping that it's going to be okay. And hope is not a strategy when it comes to trying to protect your franchise quarterback. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you'd like to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Titans practice underway here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. We'll give you updates as they come in. Again, stay tuned to the station all day today. I'll talk to Cody Barton likely early in the Chase and Big Joe show, live here from Vanderbilt Health Football Center. And Wan'Dale Robinson going to sit down with the DVD crew, Derek Mason, Willie Donick, Connor Newt. Excited for that. That'll be at 4:20 on DVD today. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, live from Titans training camp. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour on this Reaction Monday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. I am live at Titans training camp. First day in pads here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. Parker is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Titans have the pads on for the first time today, and the first team drills getting going. Cam Ward on his first sequence. A nice little off-schedule flip play to get it to Daniel Bellinger and then hit Calvin Ridley down the right sideline for a big gain. So good start for the Titans offense, actually, which I wouldn't have expected to say. Again, it's day one in pads. As Robert Saleh said, these guys have a lot on their plate with this stuff, but good to see the Titans offense protection held up for the most part from what we could see. So good start for the Titans offense, I would say, so far here in the first day in pads.
How about that? How long of a gain was it to Calvin Ridley?
25, 30.
All right.
It was a little one-on-one down the sideline on like a late breaking corner route, and he made the play. So
good.
There you go. Nice play from Cam Ward there. You can see there's some fire in there. Big Jeff, of course, talking a decent amount, which is fun. But it's cool to see the team out here. They're competing. You're seeing Robert Saleh and Brian Dable. They're calling it here. I did find it interesting, Parker, and I saw you tweeted this out too, that the first team portion of practice is scripted, and they know what the offense and defense are going to do, and Saleh and Dable are communicating on the best way to put the teams in competition to get these teams the work that they need. And then you get later into the call-it period where you're actually trying to play a little bit more chess than checkers.
And I love that Saleh said that. And there was a word that he used in there, maximize the player's time. It's exactly like a game. You script your first, I don't know. So a lot of coaches are different, but you usually try to script the best you can your first 10 to 15 plays on offense. And then from there, you over the course of the week, you're compiling a group of plays that you like in specific situations, third and short, third and long, second down, all those sorts of things. But after you get past those first scripted plays, you're looking at the call sheet and you see what you like in different situations. So it's non-scripted. So it's about as close to a game as you can get in this point in time.
Right. I mean, that's what you're hoping it continues to look like, is that these guys are competing at a high level. They're getting their work in because, again, you're challenging yourself with these 3 joint practices and preseason games that you have. The 49ers, very good team last year. Despite all the injuries, they were a game away from being the number 1 seed in the NFC. Then you've got the team that beat them in that game and won the Super Bowl, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Chicago Bears, one of the up-and-coming teams around the NFL. So you look at those 3 teams, you're going to be challenged. Titans are going to have to get good work in here. San Francisco, the first one, again, a week from tomorrow. Joint practices out in Santa Clara. A week from Thursday, the first preseason game. Lots going on out there in San Francisco. Of course, we all know the Kyle Shanahan situation, the nasty car crash, and he's continuing to recover, and we're hoping that he recovers quickly. But even more than that, like Ricky Pearsall out for the season again with a PCL injury. You got Brandon Ayuk continuing to be all over social media saying he's going to be a Commander, even though there's no evidence that that's going to happen. So very talented 49ers team you're going to see next week, but a team in flux heading into this season for sure.
Yeah, this whole Brandon Ayuk saga is just crazy because what was it, 5 years ago when he had 1,200 yards receiving? We were all talking about Brandon Ayuk as being in this top tier of NFL wide receivers. To see how far he has fallen is just it's a crazy situation. But if I'm any NFL team, I'm skeptical. This is not a talent issue whatsoever. It's completely off the field. The mental part of the game for Brandon Ayuk. I would be very hesitant to bring a guy like that in just because I would not want that cancer in the locker room.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it this weekend with Brandon Ayuk. Do you remember the Niners were close to trading him to the Steelers? Like, it was close before the Steelers pivoted to DK Metcalf. That was going to be the big deal before they got that contract done. man, the 49ers looking back are probably kicking themselves for not taking whatever the Steelers were offering just to take Brandon Ayuk off their hands.
Yeah, no kidding. And you look at the 49ers situation now at wide receiver, it's just been truly an unlucky start to your career if you're Ricky Pearsall. Bringing in Mike Evans, they brought in Deebo Samuel, they brought him back, which I do believe was the right move for a 1-year, $7 million contract. But they still lack vertical speed down the field. And Ricky Pearsall certainly would have helped with that if he was healthy. But that has to be a big concern right now if you're the 49ers.
Yeah, and as 4312 says, the power station curse continues for San Francisco, already losing a player before you even get the pads on in Ricky Pearsall. Any concern, Parker, about the Titans going out and practicing over there next to the I don't even know what you want to call it, the power station, the nuclear power station that continues to get 49ers players hurt?
Just keep Carnell Tate away from Chipotle. How about that?
That is true. That's priority number one for the Titans right now, is make sure Carnell Tate does not find his way over to a Chipotle. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, Titans practicing in pads for the first time this season. And Cam Ward early on, returns have been solid. Made a nice play down the sideline to Calvin Ridley. Just hit Wan'Dale Robinson over the middle for a decent gain. So early on, I will say I'm a little bit surprised that the offense has had a good start to this practice. Where I kind of thought the defensive line was going to be wreaking havoc against the question marks on this offensive front. But so far, the protection has been solid for Cam Ward. Again, Mitch Trubisky and Will Levis went through their reps as well during this first team period. Again, pads are on today, tomorrow. Fans out here, really cool atmosphere as the Titans gear up for the season. I did want to get back to the Will Levis stuff, and we can do that. We can do that coming up next. We'll stick talking about what the Titans have done today so far. I mean, overall, I think the one thing is you want Cam Ward to look like he's playing comfortable and playing fast out there. And I will say Thursday, I was looking across two fields, so it was a little further away. But I would say less than a week later, Cam Ward looking more comfortable in this offense. The decision-making has been quick so far during this practice, and I think that's what you want to see with Brian Daboll, is him getting the ball out quickly, making plays down the field. And so far, at least early on in practice, that's what I've seen.
That's what Saleh talked about when asked what benchmarks he wants to see from Cam Ward throughout this process. He just said decision making. Like that's the big thing that he wants to see. But that's how you have success in this type of offense that Brian Daboll runs, with the option routes, with the quick choice, slants, outs, that sort of thing, seams over the middle of the field. That's how you have success in this offense, and I believe that's very conducive to Cam Ward's strengths.
I will say, I just realized that I'm standing up trying to watch what's going on the field, and I realized that the stream was just like my chest, and no one could see anything. So we've tried to adjust that here. Cam Ward just threw an interception. Amani Hooker jumped that route there. So that's the first miss I've seen from Cam Ward today. He was looking pretty good before that, a little bit late on a throw, and Amani Hooker gets the interception. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to text or call. Again, we're out at Titans practice, first padded practice of the season. We're giving you updates as they come in of the work the Titans are getting today. I did want to get back into the Will Levis situation, his comment back on Saturday about there not being 32 quarterbacks better than him. We'll have that conversation coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game.
I know I've put the tape out there already that I'm a dang good quarterback in this league, and I'm even better than I ever have been. So.
The faith that you have a future as a starter in this league?
100%. I know I'm, I think there are not 32 quarterbacks in this league better than me. I know that for sure.
Faith.
I know.
That was Will Levis on Saturday talking about how there are not 32 quarterbacks better than him in the NFL, that he is still a starting quarterback in this league as he comes out and short hops a receiver on his first throw of this round of team drills. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. You can't script that one any better. Just like 4312 saying I had the announcer's jinx of saying how great Cam Ward was practicing so far right before he threw the pick. Right there, come back talking Will Levis and short hops a receiver. With Will Levis, we talked about it earlier, Parker, that, yeah, you need to have that confidence. If you're going to be a starting quarterback in this league, he has to believe in himself. No one else is going to believe for him. He's got to believe in himself. He's got to go out and prove it, right? You look back at the 2024 tape. Yes, there are moments where you look and say, there may not be 32 better throwers of the football than Will Levis out there. He can make throws that other guys cannot make, 100%. And that's what I think would give you hope for another team bringing in Will Levis, is he does some things that you can't coach with the arm talent that he has. But if you look back at the tape, the decision-making, the mistakes, it doesn't show you a starting quarterback in the NFL. So, as we talked about, he's going to get his opportunities in the preseason. I would guess Cam Ward, game 1, maybe plays 1 to 2 series. Then game 2, maybe 2 to 3 series. Maybe he plays close to the full first quarter in the final game of the preseason. But do you need to see 31-year-old Mitch Trubisky out there in the preseason all that much? I don't think so. Like, yeah, let him play. He can get some chemistry with some of the twos at wide receiver for a drive or two. But outside of that, it's going to be Will Levis. And that is his opportunity to put film on tape and show these other 31 teams that he has the opportunity to go be a starting quarterback somewhere else. He's got the opportunity to do it. He said it on Saturday. Now's the chance to go back it up. So far in training camp, I don't know if we've seen that he's going to go out and show out in the preseason.
And he had an opportunity when Mitch Trubisky missed the practice as well, and he didn't capitalize. You only get so many opportunities as a quarterback in the NFL, and he will get opportunities in the preseason. They've talked about how he's going to get opportunities in the preseason. I'd imagine Cam Ward's not going to play a whole lot. I'd imagine Mitch Trubisky, given that we already know what he is as a quarterback in this league, he's a Brian Daboll guy, he's played in the system before. Will Levis is going to get opportunities. And if he doesn't capitalize on those opportunities, I don't see many teams in the NFL that would be willing to take a chance on him. He's got to go out there. He's got to perform. He can't have the same mistakes that he had in his rookie year, second year, and so on. He's got to capitalize.
I still go back to Jacksonville as a landing spot for him. And I know maybe you don't want to trade him in the division, but the Liam Cohen connection, their backup quarterback, I think, is Nick Mullins. Like, it would make a lot of sense to be the reclamation project behind Trevor Lawrence there in Jacksonville. We'll see. I think, again, he's got to go prove it in the preseason that he can be that type of guy that teams want to take a chance with. 2 years ago, Malik Willis looked really good in the preseason. He had that 2-touchdown game to Bryce Oliver down in New Orleans, and I think that maybe sparked some interest around the league. He gets traded to the Packers. Can Will Levis do the same thing? He's going to have chances to do it in the preseason. Nevada Josh on the text line asks, is Hooker still there too? Yes, I'm watching him on the field right now. He just doesn't do the team reps all that much. I want to say when Trubisky was out last week for the first practice, he got some team reps, but that's pretty much it that he's done so far in training camp. Jeremy in Clarksville says, if Levis didn't have that attitude, we'd be calling him a loser. He's in a no-win situation in Nashville. 100%. Like, what do you want Will Levis to say as he steps to the podium? Yeah, I kind of suck. I deserve to be a backup. Like, that's not the mindset that he needs to have for his career, and it's not the mindset that teams are going to want if they're going to make a move and take Will Levis. So I'm excited to see what he does in the preseason, because I think right now the only way to go is up. We've been wondering about what the value would be for Will Levis in a possible trade, been wondering that for months throughout the draft. Here's the chance to raise that value. You would expect that if there was a decent offer on the table for Will Levis, Mike Borgonzi would have taken it by now. he's got to go prove that he's worthy of another team taking a chance on him. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. First round of team drills here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center is in the books. Overall, I thought Cam Ward looked good. I think that was probably one of the best rounds of team that we've seen from him. He made one really bad throw, and those are the ones that hurt you when you get into games. We've seen it before. We've seen it with Will Levis. Like, that's the perfect example of, you can make all the right decisions, but if you mess up one time and it's catastrophic, I mean, that can end up really hurting your team. So Cam Ward looked really good up until the last throw of the team drill. He'll get other opportunities here in this first padded practice of training camp. Quickly wanted to get into some college sports here, but first, let's go to the phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Tim is called in wanting to talk Will Levis. Tim, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hey, guys. Hey, you think maybe Will got into his mayonnaise cologne and drank too much of it before he got up there?
I don't think so. Again, like, go ahead, Tim.
If Will Levis was good enough to play in the league, somebody would have already inquired about him, and he would still be on the Titans. Nobody wants him.
Well, right. And I think it's a lot of it is because the last time you saw Will Levis it didn't look good. It was the Bengals game back in 2024 where he turned the ball over 3 or 4 times and he got benched for Mason Rudolph. That's the last memory that a lot of the NFL has of Will Levis. And so he's got to change that, and he's going to get the opportunity to change that. But you're right. Like, he can go up and say he's one of the best 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, but right now the tape would show otherwise.
Yeah, his stats and his numbers do not back up his thoughts. And he's thrown more touchdowns to the opposite team than he has ours.
Yeah, no, that is true. He actually did have one more touchdown than interception back in the 2024 season, so slightly more. But, yeah, the issue has been decision-making for Will Levis. And, again, he's going to get the chance to go prove it, and if he doesn't, he's probably going to get cut at the end of training camp. Like, if he's not valuable enough that another team wants to go and give a 7th-round pick to take him, then he's probably not valuable enough for the Titans to keep him on the roster as a third quarterback.
He maybe need to book a ticket and go to Canada to play.
Right. I don't know about that. I think he would get a chance on a practice squad at the very least, but, like, yeah, our team's going to take a chance on him and believe that they can get the most out of him. I don't know.
How many teams are going to keep 3 quarterbacks? I don't think they will. And Trubisky's going to be the second string here.
Yes. Yeah. Trubisky's the backup. And yeah, you're right. I think some teams do keep 3, especially with the emergency third quarterback rule. It makes it a little bit easier for you, but it's not like he's going to get brought in. If somebody doesn't trade for him, it's not like he's going to be brought in and immediately be the backup for some team. He's going to have to work his way up anywhere he goes. So yeah, this is a really important training camp and preseason for Will Levis.
All right, guys. Thanks for the call. Right.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Tim. 615-737-1025 is the phone number if you want to chime in. We will talk some big picture college sports stuff, but did you see, Parker, USC, Notre Dame are extending their rivalry matchup starting in 2030. They're going to play 4 matchups over 4 years.
4 years too late, if you ask me.
I agree with that. I agree that Notre Dame, if you're going to play outside of a conference, you got to keep those rivalries going. You got to play Navy. I know they have been playing Navy. You got to play Navy. You got to play Michigan. You got to play USC. Like, I think that should be a prerequisite for Notre Dame staying out of a conference. Now, I know they can do whatever they want, but I think that's got to be something that they keep up. And I'm glad to see that the USC rivalry is coming back.
In an era where so much is changing and we don't know what's going to happen day to day, and college football is way different than it was even 5 years ago, rivalries are one of the things that has to be one of the most valued commodities and protected at all costs. I do like that Notre Dame is playing BYU this year. I think that could be a fun game. Hopefully that is an annual thing. That would be fun. But USC and Notre Dame is one of the bedrock rivalries of the sport, and you got to keep that. You have to.
Right. So that was a good announcement today across college sports. We don't get a ton of those lately. That that one was actually positive. We'll get into some of the negative stuff as well. 615-737-1025. Watching the Titans practice again, first day in pads. 2765 texts in and says, haven't heard Carnell Tate's name a bunch in team periods over the last couple days. Yeah, I will say so far today, I haven't noticed him a ton. That doesn't mean that he's not doing his job over there. Maybe the plays just aren't being run for him specifically. But yeah, I think Carnell Tate made a great first impression in OTAs and minicamp, but he is still a rookie. There's going to be growing pains as he develops. He's not going to be Jamar Chase immediately. And I think you're going to see him continue to grow. There's going to be some of those speed bumps that he has to get over. But you are right that I don't think that he's shown up outside of the one big catch and double coverage last week in camp. I haven't really heard his name as much as maybe you would have expected to.
And there's going to be a lot of expectations, right? He was the 4th overall pick. He did make some splash plays. I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday when he had the leaping touchdown grab over Marcus Harris, which was exactly what Titans fans would be encouraged to see. And I'm sure what the coaches were encouraged to see as well. You hope to see more of those as we get deeper into training camp.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can join the conversation. Our phone line's driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Again, we are out at Titans training camp today. Our coverage is presented by Tennessee Brewworks, Parman Energy, and the Music City Kickoff Game, Twin Peaks Restaurants, Parman Tractor and Equipment, and Tri-State Water, Power, and Air. We're learning here. This is the second time we've been out at training camp. Trying to watch practice and host a show at the same time. It can be like walking and chewing gum, or like patting your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time.
Walking and chewing gum is a lot easier than watching practice and hosting a radio show.
I know. I'm trying to keep up on everything that's happening so I can give some actual nuanced analysis, but it is difficult to keep my train of thought going while I'm watching Mitch Trubisky and Cam Ward out there. We'll give you some updates on what's been going on here at Titans practice. We'll also get into some of the bigger picture college sports discussions. Over the weekend, a big court decision that could cause roster chaos around college sports. We'll get into it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you. We got 30 minutes left on the show, but make sure you stick around. I'll be back at some point during Chasing Big Joe after practice wraps up. Going to have Cody Barton join us live here from Titans training camp. And later on, don't forget, 420 on DVD. Wan'Dale Robinson going to join the DVD crew, including Derek Mason, Willie Donick, and Connor Newt. Titans practice continuing, realizing that I'm completely off the stream right now, trying to watch practice. Cam Ward has looked fine today. Again, the one bad moment was the interception to Amani Hooker. It was a scramble drill, and he ended up throwing the pick to Hooker. But Cam Ward, overall, I think has looked fine. He just actually used his legs a little bit to pick up about 5 yards, which was good to see. Something that I know Brian Dable likes to see his quarterbacks do is if there's yardage in front of you, take it. And he did get down and slide, even though he's in the red jersey. The defense has gotten its lick back a little bit over the past few periods here. I saw Jeffrey Simmons just absolutely blow up a play, and obviously, he can't hit the quarterback, so he pulled up and then tried to chase down one of the wide receivers. But he was in the backfield probably within half a second of the snap. So I think after an early good start from the offense and the offensive line, the defense has started to do what we expected, which is be the winner so far on day one in pads.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, that's the way it's set up. It doesn't matter what the team is. The defense is always going to have the edge over the offense in practice scenarios, situations like this. That's just the way it goes. That's just the way it goes at training camp. It was encouraging to hear that Cam Ward, outside of the really bad interception to Amani Hooker, had a good day for the most part. And what you said about the legs part, if there's green grass, like, take off. That makes me feel good. That's something that I've wanted to see from Cam, and I'm always going to go back to that play in Indianapolis. I believe it was a 3rd and 5, and Cam Ward scrambled outside of the pocket trying to make a play. He had green in front of him, just take off and get the first down, live to fight another play, and tried to make something happen. It was an incompletion, and your punt unit's coming out on the field. If you have green grass in front of you, just take off and get it, slide, live to fight another play.
Yeah, and I wonder if maybe in between team periods there was a conversation between Brian Dable and Cam Ward, because one of the first plays today, you saw him get outside the pocket and he had some room to run, and instead he tried to flip it to Daniel Bellinger. It ended up being a completion. But this time, standing there, saw the gap open in the offensive line. He stepped up and he took the 5-6 yards, which is good to see. Continuing to give you updates on Titans training camp here as we watch above the field here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. But did want to get into the big news in college sports over the weekend. A Denver federal judge rules that all class of 2022 athletes whose eligibility expired at the end of this year are going to get another year. Charlie Baker, the president of the NCAA, warns that roster chaos will ensue. And I think he's right. Like, you're adding all these players back into the field as options for these teams super late. Now, the one thing to note here is this doesn't change the transfer portal rules. The transfer portal is closed right now, and it's not like these athletes who are getting back in, unless they entered their name already preemptively just to see, it's not like they can just go anywhere they want. But this is something to keep an eye on with the way rosters are going to be built, the way coaching staffs are going to handle their teams, because you do get a decent amount of talented players who are now back as available pieces moving into the 2026 season for football and into the winter season for basketball.
It's chaos. It's just complete chaos. Just continuing the trends that we've been seeing while games have not been playing. I know it's been this way in college basketball, where guys that, they were expecting this ruling to happen, and they entered their name in the transfer portal not knowing what the outcome was going to be, but just in case. It's unfortunate. In football, in basketball, they already have their rosters assembled for next year, and now you throw this on top of it, and coaches they're not wanting to worry about this. A lot of them have already started fall camp. They're wanting to focus on the upcoming season and getting ready for week 1. They don't want this hanging over their heads. It serves as a distraction. That's why I don't believe Tennessee is going to try and sue or get a different outcome on the Arian Carter suspension, just because they're trying to get ready for Furman in week 1. They're trying to get ready for the start of the season, and you don't want a distraction hanging over the entire team's heads while you're going throughout fall camp.
You're right. It's just another thing that coaching staffs have to worry about. And it's like you've been working with these players all offseason trying to get them ready, and now you're adding more players into the fold who could possibly take their reps. Now, it is a very specific class of players who get this extra year of eligibility based on this ruling. Like 4312 asked, wait, can Joey Aguilar come back to the Vols now? No, because they're putting these players under the new 5-5 eligibility, which means from the time you started your college career or you turn 19, you get 5 years. Joey Aguilar would be out of that window at this point. So he wouldn't fall under this, but there are a lot of players who do. And I think for the most part, it's not going to be a ton of players coming back because anybody who went pro can't come back. So like if you got drafted into the NFL or you signed an NBA contract, although we have seen that change before, you might not be able to come back. And so this is something that's going to cause a lot of chaos. And you're right. It's just one more thing that coaches and players and management staffs all have to deal with as you get ready for a new season of college sports.
That's why Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, has been a huge proponent of this Senate bill, which, by the way, a bombshell happening late on Friday night of the SEC and Big Ten releasing a joint statement in support of the bill that would put the hands back in the power of the NCAA, the ones that are making these decisions. Now, that's a kind of a separate conversation, but football and college athletics in general cannot go anywhere if at every stop there's a lawsuit and things are getting challenged. It's just it cannot thrive like that. So regardless of how you feel about the NCAA, I know I'm not fond of them. A lot of our listeners probably aren't fond of them either. But I've always said from the start that I think this Senate bill is going to pass. And while I thought it was a Hail Mary towards the end of last week, the SEC and Big Ten coming out in support of it, they have until August 7th to pass this. So there's hope. There's hope.
You're right. There was the story a few weeks ago that the Protect College Sports Act wasn't going to go to the floor for a vote. The SEC and the Big Ten weren't on board with it. They've changed their tune now, and maybe this kind of ruling is the right push that everybody needed to get on the same page with getting congressional help trying to fix some of these issues that college sports are dealing with. Sorry, trying to watch Cam Ward. Incomplete, I believe. Down the left sideline. So, this is just another one of those things where you're seeing the NCAA. They can make all the rules they want, and they can change the way eligibility works. But if you get the right judge, they can change it. I mean, the judge said that it would cause irreparable harm. That's the word that seems to get thrown around in these cases a ton. Irreparable harm to these athletes if they aren't able to play college sports this year. And I think it might be causing irreparable harm to college sports as a whole if every single decision that's made by the NCAA or a conference can just be challenged at the local court level.
It cannot thrive the way that it's going right now, and it can't be in its best state. So this Senate bill, it's not going to be perfect, but anytime there's bipartisan legislation, that's a huge deal in it of itself. So, and we've never seen a bill. There were several bills that try to get passed. The SAFE Act, the SCORE Act, all those things never made it to this stage. So this is the best opportunity for a bill to be passed. And I know 5 years ago, I would have vomited at the sound of Congress intervening in college athletics. It's just where we are now. What's happening right now with nobody really having their hands on the wheel clearly isn't working. So somebody is trying to step up, but there are a lot of good things in this bill if you go and read it. Again, not perfect, but it's a lot better than where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, perfect, I think you're never going to find perfect. There just has to be a compromise that fixes some of the big issues that are facing these schools with no kind of regulation. And most of it is just the NCAA is far from perfect, and they make a lot of bad decisions. We talked about the Arian Carter suspension being the wrong decision last week, but there has to be a way to enforce rules and not just be able to appeal everything to your local judge if you want something to get overturned in college sports. That's the biggest thing, is just having some sort of consistency where you can't just run and say, oh, somebody's going to give me a temporary restraining order and we'll make it work. That's happened way too often, whether it's Brendan Sorsby, whether it's Charles Bediako, whether it's this with these class of 2022 players getting an extra year back. So that would be the biggest benefit of congressional intervention. And let's see, you said August 7th is when they have to get this passed by?
That is when the Senate is going to break for their, I think it's like a month-long recess or whatever. And then when they come back, they have way other, important things going on in the country to deal with other than, college sports. So that's going to not be prioritized whatsoever. And who knows if it could ever see the light of day again. So it's the best chance this week. It has to pass this week if it's going to pass at all.
The Congress does work so hard. They get so much done. They deserve a month off to rest after this one, starting on August 7th. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Not a great update on the Cam Ward front. Rolling right again, very similar to the Amani Hooker, threw a pick to Jermaine Johnson, was pressured by Jeffrey Simmons and threw a pick to Jermaine Johnson. Second interception of the day for Cam Ward here in the first padded practice of training camp. 615-737-1025. We'll give you more updates. We'll wrap up the show after this. Again, we are not done once we go off the air. Chasing Big Joe going to take over at noon, but Cody Barton going to join me up here after practice. We'll talk to the Titans linebacker about what he's seen in practice so far, especially with the first padded practice of the year. And at 4:20 on DVD, Wan'Dale Robinson going to join Derek Mason, Willie Donick, and Connor Newt. So look forward to that coming up later this afternoon. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelley with you, wrapping up the show on this Reaction Monday, live from Titans training camp. Full practice number 4 of training camp, first one in pads, and it's been a roller coaster of a day for Cam Ward, I would say. Started really strong, a couple of really good throws to Wan'Dale Robinson. He hit Calvin Ridley down the field, but trying to improvise twice, he's thrown some bad picks looking over the middle of the field. And, you know, maybe that's something that he needs here in training camp. He got away with a lot of those throws last year. And I do think that he might need to test the limits of what he can get away with. And Jermaine Johnson, Namani Hooker taught him that he could not get away with those 2 throws that he tried to make so far today at practice.
That's what Brian Daboll is going to be emphasizing to Cam Ward, right? Some of the things that Josh Allen struggled with up to a very recent point is take the easy throws when they're there, make the easy play, whether it's scrambling for the first down like we were talking about, or hitting the receiver on a 5-yard option route. Don't try to force a big play if it's not there. That's something, too, that Ben Johnson's been trying to get through to Caleb Williams. If he dials up a deep shot play action, you don't have to throw that. You can dump it off, you could throw it away, and he'll dial up the play again or a similar concept or play. But just because he calls it doesn't mean you have to take the deep shot if it's not there. Same thing that they're trying to get through to Cam Ward.
And the interceptions have been bad today. I mean, it late over the middle, Hooker jumped it perfectly, and then the second one, Simmons was running stride for stride with him, and Cam probably should have just tossed it into the sideline, but he tried to do too much and hit Jermaine Johnson between the ones. So it's a learning experience. It's still camp, but those were the 2 bad throws. Overall, I think he's been fine today outside of those 2 throws, and it's like, you know, you can't get rid of 2 bad interceptions on a day, but like Dustin from Hopkinsville texts in and says it's been the same old Cam Ward accuracy issues. I wouldn't say any of the issues today have been accuracy. It's been decision-making. Like, just don't make those throws or be a little bit more on time with the first throw. Accuracy hasn't been the problem today. He was incomplete on a throw to Tate deep into the end zone. That was more a good play by Alontae Taylor. Just hit Wan'Dale Robinson for a decent gain here as the ones are back out there. So, again, I wouldn't say accuracy issues for Cam Ward, but I think it's more learning when the journey is over. And twice today, he's been in the scramble drill, and he's hit defenders right between the numbers.
That's going to come with years of experience. That's going to come with learning. That's going to come with making these types of mistakes in practice. Not encouraging to see at this point in time, albeit. So, but if he does improve on these, like we'll see him go up against the 49ers defense. We'll see him go up against the reigning Super Bowl champs, the Seattle Seahawks, their defense, the Bears defense. If he continues to make the same mistakes, that's when it becomes a really, really big concern. You're just hoping that he can improve off of those and not make the same mistakes come next week.
Yeah, and it's true because, I mean, during the rookie season, the scramble drills was where he really shined and didn't really make those mistakes that we saw from Will Levis. But he made 2 bad throws today, bad interceptions, and you hope he learns from it. That was a nice throw from Cam Ward right there. Strike over the middle to Calvin Ridley down close to the goal line. So there's been good today from Cam Ward, but the bad has been really bad with the 2 interceptions. So we'll have to see. It's the first day in pads. I don't know how much longer they're going to go, but I would say up and down is the best way to talk about Cam Ward's day at practice today. Some really good throws, but the bad decisions have led to some catastrophic results. I will say, Parker, you know who showed up again today at practice, who we talked about earlier, Alec Iamaner. He caught a touchdown deep from Mitch Trubisky. He forced a PI call in the end zone against Micah Robinson. So we were wondering if Alec Iamaner could continue this upward trajectory when the pads came on. So far, so good for the second-year wide receiver.
I'm telling you, he's really impressed. And a lot of the time with these guys, you could tell the work that they put in this offseason because it tends to translate once you get to the practice field, once you get to the game field. Alec Iamaner put a lot of work in this offseason, and happy for him that it's starting to show. I did want to go back to one more thing on the Cam Ward front. One thing that I can respect about Ward is even if he makes two horrendous mistakes, we saw with Will Levis, once he'd throw an interception, it would get in his head and he'd make another mistake and that would get in his head and it would start to snowball. With Cam Ward, he's really good about having short-term memory, which as a quarterback you have to have, and he'll just move on right to the next play and forget that the interception even happened. So that's something that's not easy. It's something not a lot of quarterbacks can do, but it looks like he can. So I did want to make sure that I'm saying I do respect that aspect of Cam Ward's game.
Yeah, I mean, with Cam Ward, you're right. He has moved on from bad decision-making, bad throws. You look back at the Colts game, the pick six that he threw right off the bat, and the Netflix documentary showed him on the sideline just saying, hey, toss that ball out. They can keep it, and moving on. So you hope that you can see more of that. Again, Cam Ward today, I think the ball placement's actually been pretty good from the throws I've been able to see from Cam Ward. He's hit Wan'Dale Robinson at least 3 times for big gains. He's hit Calvin Ridley twice for big gains. Like there have been good throws today. The 2 bad ones are the ones that I think are going to stand out at the end of the practice just because it was just ill-advised decisions. Caleb asked, is it a bad decision or are they telling him to force the ball in since it's practice so he can learn the limits a little bit? Maybe that's it. I'll tell you, I think the Jermaine Johnson one would be one that all Titans fans would have their hands on their head. What are you doing if you did that in a game? But that's why this is practice. This is why you do it. You try and work the kinks out. And tomorrow they'll be back for another padded practice, and we'll see if Cam Ward can bounce back. Again, not a horrible day from Cam Ward. I do think he's made some good throws. But when you have 2 picks and both of them, I wouldn't say both of them were pick sixes, but there's a chance. It wasn't a great day overall. So up and down roller coaster day for Cam Ward, but it's the first day in pads. There's a long way to go. So
there is, and there's another padded practice tomorrow, which I'm very excited to be at and to attend and see some of these one-on-ones. That's going to be really fun.
Yes, you will be out there tomorrow. I will be out here tomorrow too. Again, same time, same place, 9 a.m. right here. We'll have Nick Frazier talking with us. Connor Newt will dive into everything we saw today at practice and get ready for day 2 in pads tomorrow. Did want to wrap up with a text here from Nevada Josh. He asks, how does the rookie linebacker work? Anthony Hill Jr., how's he looking? I haven't really noticed him all that much. I thought he threw a pick last week when I couldn't see across the 2 fields, but I haven't noticed him a whole lot. We're going to talk to Cody Barton coming up in a little bit. He's going to join us during the Chase and Big Joe show at some point. So we'll have to ask him about that, what he's seen from the rookie linebacker, Anthony Hill Jr. But overall, I will say I haven't noticed him all that much on the field. Haven't seen him making a ton of plays. You know who has been making plays at inside linebacker? James Williams. He's kind of been all over the field. So that's good to see. I think that's a deep position group, especially if Williams is starting to take a step forward as a young player. So I don't know, Parker, if you've seen anything from Anthony Hill, but I will say I think James Williams has flashed a couple of times.
Now, what it's telling me is about Anthony Hill is he's not all the way ready yet. So he's mainly running with the 2s right now. I'm sure at some point we will see him start to get some run with the 1s, but it's pretty obvious if you're reading context clues, you're reading the room here that he's not ready yet because it's still Cody Barton and Cedric Gray. James Williams, that is good to hear. I saw him running with the 3s at one point last week, and I was kind of confused by that. But good to hear that he's having a good day with the 2s.
Yes, yeah, it's overall, I would say it's been more evenly matched than I would have guessed. I thought the defense was going to completely dominate today, and I think the defense has won the day, but the offense has had its moments too. So it's been back and forth. Again, day 1 in pads. Practice still going on here at Vanderbilt Health Football Center. We'll be back at some point during Chase and Big Joe. We'll be talking to Cody Barton, so excited for that. And later on, don't forget, Wan'Dale Robinson joining DVD at 4:20. Should be a good conversation there. That wraps things up for us. We'll be back 9 a.m. tomorrow right here from Titans Training Camp. Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. Keep it right here on 102.5 The Game.